Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation Magazine. This is actually our last issue that I published back in August of 2021. I had the vice president of operations services for White Castle, biggest store they ever built. And let's see, this issue was 148 pages, and I always look and see what I was doing way back. Well, this was a couple years ago, but actually I was at Graceland, and this was in Elvis's wall of all the records. And um, you know, Graceland, if you've never been there, it's unbelievable what they've done. It used to just be a little house, and across the, where he lived, and across the street there was a little souvenir shop, and they had his plane. Now they've built like they have an amphitheater, they have concerts there, they have all of his it just building after building after building of all of Elvis's stuff, his cars, all of his suits. They've got all these other rock bands in there. We did an executive treat there, and in Memphis, and it was awesome. Had great barbecue, and we checked out the Martin
Nice.
Luther King, sanctuary, and we went to the radio stand, the where they all recorded, and it was awesome. But I had been there before, and then I went back. I'm like, holy smokes, talk about expansion. Ay, ay, ay.
It's the
So
upgrade.
anyway, but it's always nice to hold the magazine. But you know what? I don't miss the printer. I don't miss the post office now. We're digital. We get a couple of million people a month that hit our website. I'm a content creator, and I'm a digital guy. And thank you to all of you out there that find us on the web, and couldn't have done it without you. So we really appreciate that. But we've got a great guest out west in Phoenix, Arizona today. His name is Jonathan Porter-Whistman. He's the CEO, and his firm is called WhoHire. And what they do is they're basically a recruitment agency for talent, and I believe they use AI and so forth. So Jonathan, say hello to our guests out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Hey, it's good to be on Commercial Coffee Talk and looking forward to our conversation, David.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking earlier, and I told Jonathan, my parents have a place up in Cave Creek that's north of the valley. For those of you who don't know Phoenix, it's kind of a biker town.
It's a
And
beautiful place.
oh yeah, beautiful, all these little artsy places and stuff. And so we were having a little chat, and we were talking construction, of course, before. But anyway, what we do, Jonathan, the way we do this is we do it in three parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, all that good stuff, and if you play sports, whatever, and then how you ended up at where you are today. Then we'll talk about the last 3 years of the roller coaster that we've all been on, lessons learned, and anything new that you see out there on the recruitment side of things that coming down the pike that people should know about. And then you'll leave one positive thought or phrase and your contact info with our listeners, and then we'll close shop. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Wow, Dave. Well, thank you for having me on the show. And I'm best known as the author of The Sales Boss, which is a book about helping build, manage, train sales teams, because it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you don't have the ability to build a team to help you reach your dream, and especially a sales team, you've got a challenge. But I grew up out in Washington State. In my book, I talk about growing up in a religious cult. So everyone that I knew was involved in the same religious thing. And at just going into my early adult years, I broke free of that, completely lost contact with all of those people because, of course, they won't have anything to do with you. So a little non-traditional background. But I'll tell you, it's nothing like growing in a cult that knocks on people's doors to convert religion, to teach you how to sell and how to manage a sales team. So I guess there's a good side of that as well. But I actually started a cleaning company to put myself through school. I sold that for just over $2 million a few years later. And then promptly lost it all because I thought I knew what I was doing in business. And since then started and sold a couple of technology companies. It's actually how I came to be at WhoHire. I was speaking based on my book in Florida for a sales keynote. And this gal, great story. She grew up in Taiwan, no running water, no electricity, first of her family to go to college, great data scientist, great IO psychologist. And she came up to me afterwards because I said, from the stage, I said, I'm a big believer in pre-hire assessments like DISC, Myers-Briggs, give you a good snapshot of who is this person you're going to put in your company. And she said, I think people have it all wrong. These assessment companies, I don't think your owner really cares if you're an introvert or an extrovert. I think they would rather know, are you going to perform? Are you going to be happy? Or are you going to stay around? And if those three things are true, then they'll do that. And she had built some AI prediction models, taking massive amounts of data on actual people doing the job and then their actual performance, and was able to output predictions. So as an example, we have Mercedes-Benz as a client, CrowdStrike, some big companies. She's getting within to 10 to 15% between what she predicts they'll do and what they'll actually do. So you're going to sell 30 cars a month, 20 cars a month, and within 10, 15. Was a business owner, David, you can imagine that's a game changer.
Oh yeah.
So for WhoHire specifically, we focus on the trades. We've got millions and millions of data points of actual people in the trades doing the work, being scored on the efficiency of that work, the quality of that work, and we produce that in a applicant tracking system, so our customers can, as the applicants are coming in, get a good view of how likely are they going to be able to put to use the training and the development you give. And we also put a flight risk. So how long are they likely to stay with you? Because, it's a sort of a return after you've invested all that money training somebody. You want to stay around long enough to, put some money in the bank.
Yeah. In our industry, people either they stay at their company for, 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, I see some of these anniversaries come up and I'm like, wow, that's an awesome benchmark. And then other people, they see the writing on the wall, and, especially on the end user side, and, they bump around different brands and so forth. And, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You want to I like the people that bounce around because they get to see all sorts of the ways different companies operate. And then that person that's entrenched for, 20 to 30, 40 years, he's just, he knows what he's doing. He has his vendors in place, and it's a smooth running machine. But, sometimes they're not able to, learn new ideas and, that kind of stuff. So, like in retail, if you're not building stores or growing, you're dying. It's like, my little company, I got to feed, I treat my company like a pet, so I want to feed,
Gotta feed it.
You got to feed it every day. I don't care if it's, little wins, big wins, you got to feed it every day. And, but the training aspect, like right now in construction, the biggest issue is, like we were speaking about earlier, is, finding superintendents, finding PMs. I mean, people, even over the last couple of years with the roller coaster and everything that went on with the labor shortages, product, and all of that stuff, now we've got inflation and everything else, and which you can't control, that they told me that they had their best years, that they had, with all the other extenuating circumstances. But if they had more people, they could have done, more projects. However, they don't want to bite off more than they can chew. So, because, you just blow one project, it's a very big, small world in that we're in. And, your reputation is at stake. So, labor is a big issue. Like right now, we're launching a student newsletter in the magazine to get, kids enticed or get a seed planted, between, fifth and eighth grade, or maybe that freshman year in high school, that, look, going to college is great, but look, I went to DU. I was a lacrosse hockey player. I went there to play sports, and my parents had a place in Vail, so I was a ski bum. I was on the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
I took a year off. I worked up on the mountain, did my thing, but it's not for everybody. Like my son.
I think as a society, that's the sort of the mindset that we push people, that college is the only way. And if you really break a society apart, there's a lot of people who just in the trades do far, far better even than the people that have gone to a 5-year college in your case.
Well, my son's 24, so he always wanted to work with his hands. He didn't like English. He didn't like history. I had to drag him out of bed to get him, in the school at, high school at 7 o'clock in the morning. And he was, he just wanted to work with his hands. He was always tinkering with engines and this and that. And they had a shop, they had a shop class, but you had to have good grades to get in there. And I met with the high school and I said, hey, listen, if there's one kid, 3,500 people at this high school, all right, if you weren't an athlete or a 4.0 student, you were just kind of just a number. And he was a lacrosse player, but regardless, and he was pretty good. so I met with him and I said, look, they said, well, he doesn't have the grades. And I'm like, so I yanked him out his senior year and I put him on, homeschooled him, and he worked at the local garage. And we looked around, and first he wanted to be an auto tech. I said, if you don't have your own shop, you're not going to make the big bucks. Anyone to be a motorcycle tech. I said, if you're going to do it, you got to do it someplace warm where they ride all year. Okay.
That's right.
And I have a Harley, I ride, and, but I ride during the fall and in the spring. In the summer, it's really hot to sit at a light with a full helmet and face. You just sweat. And
try that in Phoenix.
No, I'm just going to say, I know where you're coming from. But then we took a tour of this place called the Aviation Institute of Maintenance, and they've got about 20 schools. I think they've got a gig out in Phoenix. Anyway, it's a program. You get certified by the AFA. You were welding, woodworking, aviation. I mean, everything you have to know about jet engine, and then afterwards, it takes a year to get it takes 5 tests, 3 written and 2 on hands, and then once you get your A&P, you're worth some bucks. You can work on anything as a jet engine. It could be a boiler in a hospital. It could be a tank. It could be a train. Aircraft. And so he's at Boeing, and he works on $350 million planes. He's a flight ops specialist. He works on all the planes that come out of the plant in Charleston, and then any of the planes that come in that need work on. And he spent a year as a contractor just at Boeing. In the manufacturing plant, so he knew everything about the airplane. And then there was an opportunity opening, and he beat out a lot of people that had tenure there. I mean, he's only but
good for him.
But I went through that process, and I coached them all through high school, and so I saw how parents, if you're out there, you got to get to them early, because if you get to them too late in school, their mind's kind of like, oh, I got to do the 4-year. Oh, I got to go to Florida State or Duke because they've got the cool the commons and the pool and all that stuff. And I told them
they're selling the dream, right? It's the accommodation, it's the food, it's the life, and it's very less and less about really prepping minds and skills for the future, in my opinion. You must have grown up on the East Coast, though.
Yeah, I'm from Philly. My family.
I'm from the West Coast, and I don't think I'd ever heard of lacrosse until I met people from the East Coast.
Yeah, listen, it's an Indian game. It's actually a true bred American game. The Indians invented it way back when, and lacrosse was basically up in the Northeast. It was a very, it's kind of a preppy gig. I went to prep school, and I didn't even pick up a stick until I was in prep school, and I was a 4-year boarder. I went to this place called the Petty School in New Jersey, and I was a hockey player. Used to go to Canada every summer for a month, and it was horse riding. We had stables, and we had horses when I was growing up. And anyway, I would go for a month. I played 4 hours of hockey and 4 hours of horseback. Lived on the ranch, and wanted to play professional hockey. And
super rough life. I'm feeling for you here.
Yeah. So, but I ran track, I ran cross country. I didn't play football because I didn't want to get hurt. And then I saw this lacrosse thing, and I was like, hey, I could kind of do that. And then I picked up a stick, and then, but now, just like here in Georgia, 10, 15 years ago, they didn't know what lacrosse was. Now they've got
you can find lacrosse on the West Coast now, but you go back a number of years, it just wasn't on the map at all.
Yeah. So, but I actually ended up being a better lacrosse player than I was a hockey player, and amazingly. And I still play in the old man's league, and I'm 60 years old, so I can run up and down. My glory days are over. I've scored many goals, and I did the travel and all coached and all that stuff. And I told my wife, I said, look, 𝐓𝐇𝐈𝐒 played hockey till he was 63. So I told her, as long as I can get up and down, I'm looking, and I'm a midfielder. I go run up and down the field.
Yeah.
So as long as I can, both my ACLs replaced, and the bottom line is, as long as I can get so many shifts in, I'm a happy camper. And soon, they do wheelchair lacrosse.
You'll probably have a whole new lease on life when you find a set of wheels.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between somebody that's skilled at hockey versus somebody that's skilled at lacrosse? Like, what was sort of the tipping point that made you better at one than the other?
You know what? It was really just hand and eye coordination. I was an excellent skater. I was a defenseman. I was a Russian defenseman. So I was, But I wasn't the biggest guy. I'm still
Yeah.
kind of the same. I'm 5'10", 185. That's what I weigh. And just like I was back then, I pretty much look at my friends, I go back to alumni day, whatever, like, oh my God, you just had your hair silver and you have less of it. Other than that, you look exactly the same. But, my son's like, Dad, you're getting slow out there. I'm like, bro,
What?
I'm like, I'm 60. I'm not 20 anymore, but I can still bring it. And
Yeah.
I think just lacrosse is an amazing thing because you can take any athlete that plays any other sport, and they just learn how to catch and throw. And it's just like throwing free throws, or golf. If you want to be Tiger Woods, you got to hit 5,000 balls a day.
Yeah.
And even right after the tournament, he goes out to the driving range. Same thing with lacrosse. If you want to catch and throw, you just got to do the wall ball. You just got to do repetition. They know how to run, and you can teach them the plays, but really that's the biggest thing is learning how to catch and throw. Once you master that, you can take any athlete and make them a lacrosse player. And we used to try to get the football guys, but down here in the South, football's king. And all the coaches, I can't have we have spring football, we can't have them play, and I'm like, oh my God, I'd love to have that running back and stick a freaking lacrosse stick in his hand and let
It'd
him
be great.
down the field and run over people. But uh, it, but once again, it's the same thing. Like when I told my son he wanted to play lacrosse, I said, look, I don't want some Yahoo coaching you. So just here, there aren't that many coaches. So they get the parents, they know what they're doing. So when I
Yeah.
went to the league and I said, hey, I want to, and they found out I played at DU, and they said, oh my God, you've been here this whole time? And I said, yeah, but I didn't push my son to play anything. We put him on skis and skates as soon as he could walk. And then we did taekwondo, we did roller, we did ice, and then he's like, I want to play lacrosse, and they were it was the same thing, like recruitment. They're like, oh my God, you were here, and and so I went through that same kind of ordeal, and the biggest thing was I was trying to tell parents that as a coach, even when I was doing whether it was the seventh grade select team in the summer or the little kids, we get them ready. So when they go to high school, because when you get, everybody plays in the rec league, all
Yeah.
right? But there are wins and losses, which is a good thing. You got to learn how to
Yeah.
win and lose. 'Cause, when you get out in the real world, you got
You're
to
gonna
thick
win.
skin.
You're gonna lose. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna win, you're gonna lose. Okay, and you learn from losses. It's a good thing to lose. It humbles you. So but I ran my practices like a college or a high school lacrosse practice. I said, this is the way it's got to be. And then what was great is after my son had graduated and went on, I still coached, and I didn't have anybody on the team, so I had no skin in the game. So I told all the parents, look, I'm not here, you're paying me, the school's paying me to put the ball in the net. So I don't care about your son, how great you think he is or whatever. My job is to take it from here. And at the end of the season, we're going to be that much better. And if we can get some video of them and some of my contacts that I know that are out there that are D1, 2, or 3 or club that are looking for players, I will do my best to get it in there. But the best players play at the high school and college level. It's just the reality of it. Some people play and they don't get any time. They just
Yeah.
they're on the taxi squad. So it it was an eye opener for a lot of people. But talking about recruitment, we have a serious labor shortage. So I've started this newsletter. It's called Construct EDU, and I'm launching it next week. I think my first e-blast goes out, and we're trying to get it. And I've put a serious database together of all sorts of trade schools all over the country, and we want to everybody that's on my email list, if they have a son or a daughter, or if they know someone that's thinking about where they're going to go to school, we want them to think about, hey, become a welder, become an electrician, be an HVAC, go to construction management, become an architect, become an engineer. Think about it early enough. Because like I said, once they get into that school and they talk to all their friends, oh, I want,
Yeah. They're done. They're done.
they're done, right?
I also think that we have an obligation to feature the life of people that are in the trades so that our young people get exposed to there's a very traditional view of what it is to work in the trades, and I don't think it accurately reflects all of the really cool people that I've met, even being with WhoHire and getting to know people who run companies in the trades, people who work for the trades. So I think if we could find a way to highlight those stories so our kids see that you can have a good quality of life, you can make a great living doing that, it's satisfying. and also an option for them. I think that we would win in that case. I work with one of my clients is Tommy Mello. He started a garage door company back when he was going through college. I think it was about 10 years ago. $50,000 in debt, bought a truck and a phone number off Craigslist. He just did 220 million this last year in revenue. Sold about 46% of his company for $500 million. I think those kinds of stories, and he's had a quality of life all the way through that, right? Even while he was grinding it out, building his company, he brings technicians into his company. They use our platform, WhoHire, to do that. So they're training them from nothing. He figures it costs them about $30,000 to put somebody through training, get them into a vehicle. They want to make sure they're not having high turnover in that role. So we built a prediction model to identify those people, but those sort of stories I don't think are getting told. But he can put somebody who doesn't have a career, train them. They're coming out of there $120,000, $130,000 a year, right out of the gate. That's a legitimate option for a lot of people who don't want to, sit in an office and, take the traditional route that they've sort of been programmed is somehow superior.
Yeah, like when we took the tour of the aviation school, we found out that there were 600,000 airplane tech guys that are going to retire, and airplanes cannot sit on the runway and just sit there. Just like, when the roller coaster started, no one was flying. All those planes were sitting on the tarmac. You just can't let them sit. They got to be maintained. It's not like you can let it sit and then go and just start it up and boom. So, job security was there, and, good pay. And, but I told him, I said, look, if you're going to do it, I tried to talk him to being a plumber. I said, listen, everybody uses water. You eat it. You got to drink it. You take showers with it. Your pets. I mean, being a plumber is an unbelievable thing. And we'll find someone locally that doesn't have any kids to give his company away. You'll become an apprentice. You'll get paid while you're working, and you'll get to work with your hands. And you can write your ticket. You'll be a millionaire.
And if you follow the money right now, all the private equity money coming in and consolidating plumbing, electrical, HVAC companies, and there's a reason they're consolidating, because they know there's a shortage. The price at which they can sell those products and services are going to increase. There will be a scarcity, so it'll be a good market to be in for a lot of years.
Well, I just used plumbing, plumbing as an example, but listen, we need them all. It doesn't matter what it is. We just need kids that just are not gonna, I had someone on, or I know I was listening to a podcast, or I'm listening to the radio all day on YouTube, and they were talking about colleges, and he said, there's, I think it was like 70% of the people in their first year drop out of school because they've never lived away from home, or they just don't get the college thing and how it works, and they slid through the public school system, if that's, or whatever school that they went to, private, public, didn't matter. And what do they do? And I could have looked at my son. They could have, when he was like 15 or 14, and all his buds were sitting on the sofa, and I'd be like, okay, you're going to be in jail. You'll be a doctor. I don't know what you are, and they all ended up. I picked them all right. I mean, I don't know. I'm a pretty good judge of character, but I was just looking at them, just pick kids on all my teams, and I knew the good ones and the ones, listen, I came from a construction family. My family's been in business since 1888. We're in construction demolition outside of Philly, and when I grew up, when you got your license at 16 as a grandson, if you were a male in the family, you had to go work in the scrapyard. All right. So I shot asbestos, I did acetylene torches, I had to watch out for the overhead cranes. I mean, all this stuff. And my grandfather was a combat engineer underneath, he was a lieutenant colonel underneath Patton in World War II. So he rebuilt all the bridges that the Allies, and he was in the rebuilding of Europe.
You didn't have a choice. You were going to be somewhere connected to construction.
Well, yeah. I mean, I went through it, and now my cousins that are same age as me, they're fifth generation running the company, and listen, we were in recycling and before sustainability was even a word, but just like my grandfather way back when he started out, they emigrated from Europe and came to Ellis Island and had nothing, and grew the thing, and it was profitable, and it supported. My grandfather was one of 13 children.
What do you think the biggest change you've seen in the business over that time span of multi-generational?
I don't think I think they've held the company culture. It's family owned.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody. I grew up in a place called Pottstown. It was about 45 minutes west of Philadelphia, 15 minutes just due of Valley Forge. So it was a small town. We had our location was right along the Schuylkill River. Bethlehem Steel, when steel was a big thing, and I just think that the military thing was a big thing. I come from a military family, so we put up the flag and down every day, sit down dinners. I went to prep school. I had study hall every night. I had school on Saturday morning. I kind of had that work regimen. Finish what you start, give it your all, do it 110%. I don't care if it's cleaning toilets or whatever. Everything that you do is going to mold you to who you are today. And just like this magazine, I'm a builder. I built,
Yeah.
I used to build it with paper, ink, and now I do it digitally. But I'm still a constructor, and I'm proud of it. I built this.
Yeah.
I built this, and so I have kind of pride in everything that I do. And I had my son on about 6 months ago as one of my podcast guests. I've had a couple students on here, believe it or not, that they've talked about why they went into the trades.
Nice.
And he said, I always tell him, listen, I know you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you, but 20 years from now, you're going to come back to me and say, hey, Dad, you were right. So he came out and said it. I didn't think I was going to hear it that quickly, but he said, if you and Mom weren't as hard as me, and I was definitely the bad cop, she was the good cop.
Yeah. As it should be.
Yeah, but as a father, my job was to make sure he had thick skin, just like he could handle on the lacrosse field or on the taekwondo mat or whatever. When you get out there, I'm telling you, when you go out there in the real world, you never been out there before, it's a vicious place. Okay. And you got to be ready for it. And so my job was just when he's ready to fly the nest, you got to be ready. It was funny because after he got out of school, he got hired by Delta. It took him about 2 months to get fingerprinted, background checked, and so forth. So his first day down there, he goes down to Delta, and I get a call 3 hours later. And I'm like, what's up? How's it going down there? He's like, Dad, I just had a recruiter call me, and Boeing wants to hire me. They're going to pay me 5 times as much as Delta's going to pay me, and I can live in Charleston at the beach. And what should I do? I said, well, what does your boss say? He said, get the hell out of here and go to Charleston. I said, so he came home. We looked online that night. We found some guy that had a room for rent. And my wife went over with him and got him settled. And a week later, he was, living on his own. But that
was the shortest stint at a job ever.
Yeah, exactly. And now he gets job offer. Listen, people are looking, so they find him. He's on LinkedIn and this and that, and he gets people. These recruiters, they reach out to him, and but he likes where he's at, and he just soloed and got his pilot's license, and he wants to get his commercial license and have his own commercial kind of cargo gig. And
I think for young people, if there's any anxiety about will I have work, it really just comes down to their quality of character. If they have good character, good work ethic, I don't care where you end up, there's going to be a good paying job for you, because there's less and less of that in our society in terms of people being taught how to work, how to think. So that's sort of the gold mine of focus on character and qualities, and you're sort of going to get into the thing that makes sense for you.
So when you had your cleaning company, was it a janitorial service or what was it?
Well, yeah, it was commercial janitorial services.
Yeah. So how did you figure that out? I mean, there you are in school, you're working, you got to make money, and you just pick janitorial?
Well, I grew up in a really poor family, so I was like, what's the cheapest thing I can get into? And everybody buys a mop and bucket, right? And so that's what I did.
And how did you get your clients? Did you have you
just
there and cold called on?
Yeah, just started walking in places, knocking on doors, talking to people. But I had a great system in place, and it's actually a system I still teach today. So how do you build a moat around your clients? This is going way back, so now I'm going to have to think.
No, I'd love to hear it.
The problem with janitorial is, in construction, probably the same way. In some ways, like, yeah, I mean, reputation matters, but at some point, anybody can jump into the business. They're not going to pay their taxes. You're not going to, do everything quite legal. So their cost structure is going to be way lower. They might not be here next year, but they don't really care, right? And you're competing against that and trying to be a legitimate operator. So I would go into to quote an office, and I tended to focus on like banks and plastic surgeons, not nicer offices, right? And so I would always make sure that I was the highest price. And I knew going into it, I was going to be the highest price. I knew they were going to say no, but so I would go to the owner. I'm young, so they probably gave me attention just because I was also young. And I'd go in and I'd say, hey, how come, I didn't get a call back? Well, you're the highest price. And I said, well, David, I'm confused. You told me that you keep switching companies because they have a different person in here every night, and they're only doing, 8 out of the 10 things you need to have done, and it's important for you to office. I only have chemicals and people, and I got to do 100% on your list. What would you like me to use less of? And they'd be like, I wouldn't win every one of them, but when I would win a deal, they had already said, you want to do 100% of the things on their list. They're willing to pay a premium to do that. So I would then do 2 things. One is when I would get 90 days in, I would go back to the owner and I would make sure we had done 100%. And I'd say, David, how's things going? Yep, 100% of things on your list. We'd have a nice conversation. I'd say, David, there's only one problem, is I've discovered now after a quarter of doing your business, when it comes to pricing, and of course they're thinking I'm going to raise their rate when I say it that way. I say, I realized I'm overcharging you for what it actually costs me to do 100% of the things that I committed to doing for you and turn a good profit for my business. Here's a refund check for the last 3 months for the difference, and I'm going to be lowering your rate. So I would never lose a client because I just embedded in their mind that I'm going to do 100% and I'm going to be honest and only charge what I need with a fair profit for my company. And I think so in any company business that you get into, it's thinking about how do I differentiate and anchor in people's mind that thing that's important in terms of our relationship. So that was one thing. The other thing that I did is the day one that I went in, I would clean everything, even if it wasn't on the list. I'd be dropping light lenses, cleaning the chairs in there, put a little sign on there, say, David, your chair's been professionally steam cleaned. Please make sure you check it before you sit down. I knew it would be dry, but I just wanted to draw attention that we did that. And I would put a, 3-foot tall bouquet of flowers on the front desk, right? So any customer that walked in on Monday would say to the receptionist, oh, whose anniversary is it? Whose birthday is it? Like, who gave you the flowers? And they'd be like, well, it's just our new cleaning company. And everybody, oh, it does look good. It smells good. And just reinforced, right? They made a great decision. So I'm thinking about the other salesperson coming behind me, walking in. Like, he's got to get past her, which probably isn't going to happen. And if for some reason they do, they got to go to the person that believes that I'm only charging them exactly what it costs me to do the building and no more. So I inoculated my company against competition, even in a field that was highly competitive.
Yeah. Listen, I'm a digital guy, so I post stuff every day up on my different sites. And I posted this thing, I think it was last night or the night before. It was on one of Grant Cardone's, big real estate dude.
Yep.
He said, never drop your price, add value.
Yeah.
And you can take that to the bank. And
it's odd because people tend to think it's always about the price, when in fact it's almost never about the price unless you have nothing else to judge it on, right? Like, if there's no differentiator at all, of course you're gonna look at price. But oftentimes price is sort of a heuristic for value. It's a shortcut, mental shortcut that we use to make things right. You can go into a mini mart where they have bottled water sitting, inside a fridge, right side by side, and you got the 99-cent store brand, and you got the $2.30, whatever brand, and there are billions of dollars sold on that other end of the shelf. Because
Yeah.
there's some people that believe a $2.50 bottle is better than the 99 cent. It's just this heuristic in their mind. They're not you could switch labels and prices, they'd still reach for this one. It has nothing to do with the water that's in the bottle.
Yeah. No, listen, that, when people bid on construction projects, like right now, I'm going to get 3 bids, and there's going to be a low bid, there's going to be a mid bid, there's going to be a high bid. And I'm going to look at who referred them to me, and I'm going to look at, but I'm not really, because you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
You really do. Do I want to, I'm going to build a house. I don't even know if I'm going to live in it. I might even sell it. I have no idea. So, and we want it for our portfolio, for my wife's company. And so the guys are going to get the job. It's not, we don't know if it's going to be the lower or the high bid. We're going to pick the best person that's qualified, that can get the job done to our standards. And if we have to pay a little more for that, so be it, because I'd rather have that than have something you're scrambling to, oh, this guy's got to go, we got to find someone else, and you're on a deadline and this and that. And so
yeah. If we go back to WhoHire and this whole thought about,
I was going to say bridges to WhoHire. Yeah.
Well, about hiring people, as a business owner, they really need to think in terms of their people. It is their biggest investment in the future value of their company. But what you find owners do is they sort of rush that hiring process, and they don't give it as much. I've seen CEOs walk into an interview for a very important position, and 5 minutes before, they're like, "Oh, I forgot Frank was coming. Let me grab his resume." And like, they're scanning through it. And I always say, if you're gonna, for every portion of your hiring process, you should be thinking that you have to write a personal $500,000 check if you allow this person to go to the next stage of your hiring process. Like, it is that serious. It affects the whole value of your company. What we allow to happen in WhoHire is you're still going to use your gut and intuition, but now you're going to have a lot of data to back up that this person does have all of the core abilities to learn and execute on the things that you're going to ask them to do, and that they're going to be happy in the role. And why is happiness important? Because you don't stick around a job if you're not happy, and if you do, everybody else is miserable because you're not doing your best work, right? So you really want all of that. You want somebody that is intrinsically talented at it, and they find joy and satisfaction in doing that work, because that means they're going to stick with it for the long haul. And we are entering, I think, especially in construction, but it's true across the entire economy, where you're not going to have people that put in 20, 30, 40 years with one company. When you had 20, 30, 40 years, you had plenty of time to mold somebody, indoctrinate them. You had a long horizon to get your return on investment in them. But now people are changing in 3, 4, 5 years, which means you have to be able to hire them, train them, and get your value back out of them before they go on to the next thing. It is going to be more and more important for companies to have a system for hiring, and they have it for almost every other part of their business, right? They don't fly blind in their accounting department. They don't fly blind in their in buying their materials and their project management. Mm-hmm. They use data, and WhoHire just allows them to do that same thing, to get really forensic on who am I bringing into the company, why, and what's my expectation of how they're going to perform.
If what's the typical process of someone reaching out to you, and what's the process?
You just go on to WhoHire.com. You can set up. We have an instant meet, so you can instantly meet with anyone from our team, or you can schedule time. We're happy to talk through people's business and talk about how they might be able to utilize our system to improve their hiring process. We are a technology platform, but we offer a lot of services alongside that to make sure people are getting the best value.
I just look back, before, the internet came in, and, paper resumes and this and that. And now you got digital, and everything's at warp speed. And but hiring, it's an art. It really is. In my opinion, you really have to know what you're doing, because without your personnel, like you said, HR, accounting, sales, your front desk person, whatever it might be. If you're not using a chat bot these days, the bottom line is you're going to hire that person, and they're a reflection of your company. So you better be darn sure who that person is, and what they can bring to the table, and knowing in the back of your mind that this person's not going to be with me down the road. Could be 5 years, could be 20, whatever. You got to always be thinking, it's just like a lacrosse team. The starting guy got hurt. Who's the next guy on the bench that's going to come and replace this guy?
And that's a mental shift, right? I've always hated this term human resources, because when you think of resources, it's like something you burn through, right? At least that's sort of, like you think natural resources.
Yeah. See you later.
You consume it. But they are really a resource. They are a fuel for your business, and they do have a shelf life. There is some natural period in which they're going to work for your company, even if you do your best work with them. And that time period has shortened. It's a societal shift. People have learned that they're going to get a bigger pay raise when they move to another company, when they take and port their skills elsewhere. So you should just be building your company with that understanding of, I'm going to bring them in. And one of the reasons people of high quality are going to work with me as an organization is because they know I'm going to develop them, and I'm going to help them get their next dream, the next thing they want to move on to, that I accept that as part of the process. And if you do that as a company, you may have the person that stays with you 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, because they appreciate that about you, that you see bigger and better things for them, and you're willing to let them continue to chase their dreams. One of my clients says, when he's building his company, he says, my responsibility is for my dream to be big enough for all my people's dream to fit inside of it. And I think that's a perfect way to think about people.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. If any of our listeners out there, Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, if they were going to reach out to you, would they just go to your website, or would they reach out? Even if they wanted to bump some questions off yourself, how would they reach out?
Yeah, but John, Jon, at WhoHire.com. I answer all my emails, so people can always get a hold of me. And I have the reputation of replying to 100% of my emails. So,
hey, listen, I answer all my emails. I'm right there with you. I mean, it's the biggest treadmill ever. I get through my day, and then all of a sudden I go to bed, and all the people over all over the world, they're asking me for do stuff. I wake up and my box is full, and it's just a never-ending thing. But listen, if you're out there, you're looking for people. Could be, like I said, superintendent, project managers, business development people, salespeople, whatever it might be. If you're looking to fill a void at your firm, John out in Phoenix is your man. Sounds really, really cool, because he's got all the technology going on. He's been a business owner, put him to tell school. He understands the mentality of it. The mindset is all it's about. And listen, I get them all day long. I see people on LinkedIn. We're hiring. They can't find people. So there are people out there, but remember, you got to pick the right person, because it's an investment.
That's right. And you're hearing all this talk, AI, and you're going to get left behind if you don't use AI. Hiring is a really simple place to use AI. We have it figured out. It works. We've done the math. So just avail yourself of the best tool out there. If you're hiring the same way you were hiring last year, you're already getting further and further behind your competitors.
Oh yeah. Listen, I use AI all day, and I still write my own column, and but I use it for all sorts of stuff. And even when we were building our, like I said, we were building our house. So I went through and I said, what are all the things that need to be on the budget? And there was things I didn't think about that, So, but it's a tool. That's all it is.
It's a great thinking tool.
It's a great tool, and will it replace some people down the road? Yeah, maybe. But listen, there's going to be people going to have to build those machines. But as far as drywall and listen,
the trades are probably the safest place from AI right now.
Yeah,
not
in our lifetime for sure.
Well, not the trades as a business. I think the trades as a business is very affected by AI. Like, how do you operate the business? How do you think and function the business? But where the work actually gets done is probably more safe than other locations. Not completely, right? You're still seeing a lot of innovation in that area as well, but maybe. Yeah. I think people tended to think it was the lawyers that were the safest and the doctors, and actually AI is affecting lawyers and doctors far more than almost any other field right now. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If you wanted to leave one positive thought or phrase with our listeners out there, as we go, through the remainder of 2024, what would it be?
I'm going to go with people are unique, but they're predictably unique.
Nice.
And this comes from my grandfather that used to say, business would be easy if it wasn't for the people, right? Because people are messy. But the truth is, people are unique, but they are predictably unique, meaning that you can have success with the people part of your business if you just start understanding the patterns of what makes people tick. People are unique, but they're predictably unique.
Yeah, I saw this. I posted something else a couple of weeks ago. I think I've mentioned on one of my previous podcasts, but I always like this one. Every boss was a worker, just like you were, and and that's the golden thing to know how everything works. So when you hire someone, someone's coming, oh, he's just a desk jockey or whatever. No, this guy was, he started the thing with nothing, and now it is what it is, and and you're brought in, and he's going to mold you that in with that same kind of mindset and work attitude and what you bring to it, you're going to be that much better off. So,
David,
listen,
great chatting with you today.
Yeah, we're going to close this out. If anybody wants to reach me, I'm at davidc@ccr-mag.com, and we look at everything. So send me stuff. We'll get you posted and get you some coverage on the web. Two real fast things. If you're out there on that construction site, make sure you stay safe. We want you to get home to your family every night. Number two, drink lots of liquid, stay hydrated. Get hydrated, get headaches, and that's when mistakes happen, and so forth. So, John, pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for the time. And for all you out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, hey, listen, have a great rest of the year, and we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. When we get out to Phoenix, I'm going to look you up. We'll catch some lunch or something, right?
Yep, we'll do some coffee.
All right. Cheers. See you.